What's going on, YouTube? It's a No Level Cap podcast, and this week we asked the question: how much is too much? Because these prices going up.
Yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the No Level Cap podcast with all your friendly neighborhood black nerds, where we cover all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, absolutely zero of the BS. Here with a new episode every Monday morning. I am your host, Sage Ashford. These are my co-hosts, Devin Butts and Terrence Flowers. Like Devin said, this week we're talking about just how ridiculously expensive gaming is becoming. Of course, this discussion comes on the heels of Microsoft announcing on May 1st that the price of their consoles, controllers, and some games are all going up. The Xbox Series S is noted to be going from its formerly very affordable $299 to $380. The 1 terabyte model going from $349 to $429. The Series X digital $449 to $549. The base model going from $499 to $599 US, and like the PS3, and their 2 terabyte special edition going from $599 to $729. Now, I was going to say that that's unprecedented. Game consoles used to go down in price over time, but that's not true anymore. Back in 2022, Sony also raised the price of the PlayStation 5 basically everywhere but America. And in the face of these tariffs, Sony has already started raising prices again, basically everywhere but America. And I would guess it's probably safe to say that you'll see the same thing in America soon enough. Meanwhile, Nintendo has decided to be the first company to broach the topic of multi-tiered pricing for their games. Some of their Switch 2 titles have been confirmed to be $69.99, while their marquee title, Mario Kart World, will be $79.99. If that sticks, I guarantee you it won't be the last game that we see cost $80, which brings me to my first question for y'all. What titles, if any, what titles are worth $80, Terrence?
So, I'm going to be straight up. No game is really worth $80 unless it's something that I'm playing all the time and the DLC is like free for the most part. Like if I'm getting endless value out of the game, like if I'm on the game, let's say 20 hours a week, and I'm just continuously playing it for months on end, kind of like how you're playing doing a lot of these free to play games, then I feel like at that point you could argue that it's worth $80. Am I personally willing to spend that $80? I don't know, man. That's probably like, at that point, some choices are going to have to be made. It's a big ask. Like the closest that I personally have come to that in the past was for fighting games, where you buy the base game and then you get the season passes as the seasons come out. That was the closest I ever got to paying like 80 plus for games, because I was okay with that, because I knew for fighting games, I would get them. I would play them consistently, play with friends, play online, sometimes go to tournaments, and I was getting my money's worth out of it. But even then, those games weren't $80 just on their face. They were no more than $60. Now, well, we've reached $70. So, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, those games are $70. So I pay $70, then you pay for the season pass, which the season pass is sometimes $25 to $30. They've gotten up there, which that adds a whole other level of complexity to this issue, is that if games are going to cost $80, if you're going to add like season passes and expansion passes on top of that, this hobby is going to price a lot of people out. And I think another aspect of this is, I know this is veering off a little bit from like our titles worth $80 to me, but it ties into it as well, is that games going up in price, like this is not only going to affect the consumer, but the way I see it, it'll affect the devs and the publishers as well, because if you have a game that's $80 now or 80 plus, you can't just be okay or mediocre. I know we've talked in the past about how we wish.
I mean, to be honest, you can't even just be good.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
It was straight. It was straight. It's like a nice little 7.5. That's not good enough at $80.
No, you're right. Yeah, like as the cost continues to go up, like you can't excuse a game having glitches, having day one issues. You can't have another Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077. I'll put it that way. Yeah. So there's these games are probably, if they're not up to snuff, they're gonna do worse than what they were before because people are gonna look at that price tag and be like, I
ain't paying that.
I don't want to come off this much just for a game that's just okay. And a lot of like pre-order stuff, people might not do that as much anymore just because I'm gonna wait to see what the reviews looking like. Then I'll buy if they're high enough to justify the price. So the long story short for me is what title is worth $80. It's going to depend on how much I really want that game. But even then, I'm going to kind of be like, I don't know. Maybe I'll wait for a sale or I'll just play something else. Like that's another thing about this conversation is the backlog is infinite. I don't have to buy these new games if I have all these other games that I could play. Just sometimes it's best to not go out and go after the new shiny thing and instead, play the things that you've been sitting on for quite some time. So yeah, my answer is there might be a game or two that come along that might be worth $80, but for the most part, I'm really going to have to sit there and like justify whether I really want to pay this much for this game or not. Like if the critic scores make it worth $80 and if the value that I'm ultimately going to get out of it makes it worth $80. So those are two big things that are going to come into play for me.
That's a good answer. Devin, what about you, man? What do you think what titles, if any, are worth $80?
Yeah, that's just as Terrence mentioned, that's a fully loaded question because there's so many different aspects to it. It's like the time you put into something, again, like the quality of the game, the eccentric quality, like how is it out the box? That's the biggest issue I think right now. If I were to say any game that's out right now that I would say like, oh, I pay $80 for that, I'm fine. Elden Ring could be in that conversation. Yeah. Maybe I know you just mentioned Cyberpunk. Maybe Cyberpunk in the state that it's in now. Maybe that could be a conversation. It's also like one of the most graphically intense games of this generation. Like the past generations. Maybe you could put FF7 Rebirth in that conversation. Maybe Metaphor. Maybe some of your first party titles like Sony, like God of War. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like you said, are we getting something? Are we going to make sure that these games run properly when they come out? Because if you're adding an extra $10 onto it, this is like Terrence mentioned, DLC. How much of the deal? Are y'all going to increase the price of DLC as well? Like that's another question.
I mean, you said 10, but in reality, like the 70 just happened. Like the move to 70 is fairly new.
Yeah, that's pretty new. Yeah.
So if we jump to 80, it's really like $20 up compared to like what it was last year.
Yeah. So I just think the game has to be well made. It can't be riddled with glitches and bugs. It's gotta be content rich. I'm gonna be honest, like I mentioned Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I know a lot of people were actually complaining about the game had too much to do. I feel like, if you have a game that gives you that, if it has that much content where it's too much to do, I can say, okay, you can get away, hey, this might be worth 80 because it's giving you so much to do out the box. Like there's no extra content, no DLC. If I've got because I always bring this back up. GamePro used to have their ratings based on graphics, sound, and fun factor and replayability. So replayability is a thing we don't really talk about. That word doesn't really come up a whole lot anymore. But how much replayability does a game have out the box outside of you buying any extra stuff? To me, I feel like if I spent my money on the game and I spend like, RPGs are usually like 50 plus hour experiences. If I play an RPG or something for like 100 hours and I'm like, man, that was a lot of content, I would say, hey, $80, I'm cool. And I enjoyed myself. Like I'm enjoying Rebirth now. I'm almost done with the game, like 70 hours in. Heck, it'll probably be 100 plus by the time I'm finished with everything. I would say, you know what? I spent 70 on this. I wouldn't mind spending an extra $10. But I just don't. A lot of games you see nowadays don't really have it. There's so much stuff that comes out. It's almost like the trend is to release a game that's not finished now, and then we'll fix it on the way. And I mean, granted, nobody's perfect. We're humans, so like there's gonna be some type of errors, even in like the greatest games of all time. There's some type of issues, right? But the way you handle it, I'll give credit to the first Berserker Kazan, Neeple. Those people have made they bet out like 8, like maybe 7 patches since the game came out. Like anything that happened, it was no like delay. Granted, the game wasn't like glitchy or terrible when it came out, but any little quality of life thing they want, they like, hey, we changing it immediately. So I can even give props to that. I'm like, hey, you got something that's wrong, fix it immediately and address the issue. But a lot of games come out nowadays and this stuff is just still in the game forever. It's like, when y'all gonna fix this? You wanted me to pay 70 or now going to be an extra 10. Are you gonna fix this? So it's a real, I think, small select few games out there that I can say that's like really worth 80. I know we got one that's coming out. Well, it was supposed to be this year, but next year that people are like, oh, it might be worth $100. I'm like, I don't know about that.
I talked to the only GTA fan I know, biggest GTA fan, and the only GTA fan in this house, and we all play video games, all 5 of us. And I asked Ty, I said, would you pay $100? He was like, man, I'll wait. I don't care how long it's been. I'm not paying no $100 for no GTA.
And like Terrence mentioned, like it's go ahead, Terrence. You have something?
I was just gonna say, what if they also push back GTA 6 just because they want to see how the pricing stuff goes for everybody else, and then if it kind of blows over well, it's like, all right, we're gonna charge more.
A lot of people have been speculating that.
I don't think they give a damn because it's GTA and they operate on a different like. GTA and Rockstar operate on such a different level than every other developer. Like, you got to keep in mind, this is a company that does not show up to nobody's showcase. Like, they haven't shown up to anybody's showcase in over a decade. Like Summer Game Fest, E3, the Game Award, they don't need it. Nobody else can say that. Nobody else has that level of clout where they can just be like, hey, I mean, when we put a trailer out, you gonna show up because we Rockstar. What you gonna do about it? And I imagine that same mindset that leads to them promoting their games in that way is the same mindset that leads to them being like, we're going to charge whatever we're going to charge, and people either going to pay for it or they're not going to pay for it. Now, do I think they may overplay their hand? Yes. And we'll get into that a little more later. But I do think it's possible that they overplay their hand, but like I don't think they care whether or not $80 games go over well or they don't go over well because it's GTA.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna close just real quick. Something that Terrence mentioned, like not getting the shiny thing when it comes out. My brother told me something that was so like profound. I guess it depends. Like if you do like game reviews for a living or something like that, it's a little different. But if you're just like a consumer, this is a hobby. It's like you don't have to get the game when it comes out. And there are some games for me that I want to get when they come out. Right? Like I have a PC. I don't have a PS5 currently. I got a PC. I really wanted to play. I was almost on the verge of buying a PS5 just to play Final Fantasy, but I'm like, I know it's coming to PC. I just got it as soon as it came out on PC. So there are some games I'm like, I would love to experience this when it comes out. But he's like, man, you ain't got. It's gonna be there. Like unless something happens, the game gets shut down. The game gonna be there, and they're gonna go on sale multiple times, so you can play it. You don't have to play it when it comes out. I get it. Just like that FOMO, fear of missing. Man, you got to experience it right now. Mm-hmm. You can play it whenever. Get a deal. And there's one last thing I'll say about this. These games, we just saw a game come out that was $50 that has been doing numbers.
Yeah.
That is also a turn-based RPG. That's another topic in itself because people are like, man, nobody like turn-based RPGs. They don't. Okay. Expedition 33 thinks otherwise. But that's also a very good game that came out that was $50. So that's another topic. Like, hey, do games have to cost this much? Do they need to cost as much? Because you can still make good, solid games, but it's just people's tastes are different. I get it, but you can still do numbers with games that are not $80. So all in all, you have to make sure you're giving the consumer a good product if you're gonna charge this much more money.
So you brought what's up, Terrence?
I was gonna say one aspect of the unfortunate aspect of games costing more and like not getting the shiny thing is that a lot of people now like you said, Devin, there's that fear of missing out. And also you want to be in the conversation while it's active. Cause it's like, hey, you buy this game that everybody was talking about like a year or two ago, you know, nobody's really talking about it in the same, and you're like late to the party. So, and also like streaming plays an aspect of that as well. Cause everybody wants to stream the latest thing so that you're getting attention and eyes on you. And so I can understand that part of it as well, wanting the new games, but while they're new. But yeah, at that point, you have to, you know, make that justification. You know, do you want to do this because you get some views, or you want to be in the conversation, or are you willing to wait? You know, just something to think about.
Devin mentioned Claire Obscure, but really all three of the best reviewed games of the year are all sub $60. Blueprints is one of the best reviewed games of the year. That was $30. Split Fiction, another best reviewed game of the year candidate, that was $50. Claire Obscure, $50. Like, all the best games this year have been under 60. Never mind 70. They've been under 60. And so, like, yeah, I mean, that is something for a lot of developers and publishers to think about. For me, I don't know that there are very many games that I would say are worth $80. I am along the lines of Terrence. I think I might be willing to pay that price if we stop doing some of the usual like tactics that have become common since the end of the PS3, start of the PS4 era. Like, if you're going to sell me a game, I need the season pass be included for the first year. If it's a, you know, multi-year season pass, like, because even some single player games, like I know Assassin's Creed Shadows is supposed to get like 2 years worth of support. Okay, well, the first year I need that to be included in the $80. And if there's no cheaper version to buy, I get it. I can see myself spending that much on Yakuza in general, just because those games are so well done and so much production value is put into them. And it takes, I can't imagine getting out of a Yakuza game without spending less than 80 hours if you really trying to do as much as possible in the game. In general, though, largely, I would rather not spend $80 on a game. So I'm more likely to just wait until a Steam sale or a holiday sale. For me, the ideal price is exactly those games that we talked about earlier, $30 to $50. And I'm willing to wait until the sale comes down to $30 to $50. And one of the things I got to say, man, publishers have to stop making their problems into our problems. And I'm saying publishers more than I'm saying developers, because I understand developers, they just got to do whatever the publisher tell them. But like the publisher, you trying to make your problem into my problem, and that's not my problem. Like, you trying to raise the price of these games because the investors want this gigantic ROI. That's not my problem. And when the game doesn't sell, and when I say I mean gamers as a whole, that's not our problem. Like, when the game doesn't sell, you like, oh, well, I couldn't believe it didn't sell. Like, yeah, bitch, it's $80. I'm not coming off $80 for your fucking game. Like, and then the next man game, they gonna want $80 too. And it's like, bro, I ain't got that. And even if I had it, I'm not trying to blow it all on fucking video games. Like, you done lost your mind. Like, at the end of the day, like, there are a select few games I think every gamer is willing to pay a premium on. And then every other type of game is fucked. For me, you know, like I said, Yakuza, yeah, if you come out with like a really fire-looking fantasy RPG or some sci-fi RPG that I think is going to be just the nuts, okay, cool, I'll spend $80 on that. But I'm not dropping $80 on a game where I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. I'm only kind of sure. Like, oh, well, that sounds like I'm not spending that money. I'll just wait until it's, you know, $50 at least. And that's another thing that I'm annoyed by, because like really my target price in my head is like $30 for a game. And like, we all know how that shit work. The price, it's got to keep dropping. Like, you know, we are, like I've said before, it is very possible we are going to see in the near future a sale where the sale price is what used to be the full price, where it's $80 for the game and the sale price is $59.99, and they acting like they did something. And you like, bro, this what we used to pay like 10 years ago, bro. And it was hot in. People didn't like $60 games back when they were $60. And now you're trying to tell us, oh, they 80, and it's like, that's not my, like, again, like, and I do wonder about that. And I guess that's the thing we got to get into next. These price increases seem to be due to Trump's tariffs. Politics coming for us again. Except for Mario Kart World, I think Nintendo just wanted to charge $80. Yeah. I think they want to bring back multi-tier gaming. But everybody else, I think, like Xbox, I don't think they did that because they wanted to charge $80. I think that they don't have a choice. I think these tariffs are getting in their ass. And so I guess the question I would ask is, do y'all think the prices go back down if the tariffs go away? And if they do go back down in the next console generation, do they just come back up to what the prices are right now, or what will be over the course of this next year? Devin.
So if the tariffs were to be done away with, I don't know. Like Xbox, I feel like at this point we always say, like, I know one of Angry Joe's quotes is like, corporations are not your friend. So like, like,
No, they're not.
People are trying to make as much money. Like their really sole purpose is to make money. And a lot of times they just don't care how they get it. I think it's a potential that they might keep them there. Because it's like, well, we've got these systems, they've been out for a while, but hey, let's, we got some quality consoles and stuff. Why not just keep them at the price, we said Nintendo, theirs wasn't due to tariffs. We just think Nintendo's like, hey, we're Nintendo and we do, well, others don't. So we gonna,
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Nintendo is at least about their console specifically said, yeah, the tariffs didn't factor into our pricing at all.
Yeah. So it's like they're already confident enough. So it's like they might, hey, let's follow suit. We'll just keep ours the same. Like even if the tariffs are raised, like most people they'll still maybe buy the low. Because what's the highest one? Oh, $729 for the X?
For the 2 terabyte special edition X, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I ain't gonna lie, like almost $1,000 for 2 terabytes, bro. I need at least 4. Give me at least 4, man. Like
I mean, and that's what that costs. Imagine what the PS5 Pro, if they have to do like some tariff price, like the raised price because of tariffs. Imagine what that's gonna cost.
I saw some people talk. I saw someone on IGN say that they were actually getting ready to trade in their base PS5 to get the Pro because they think that price increases are going to come for PS5 consoles too. So it's like, you better do it now, which might not be too bad of an idea.
I had actually told my roommate Ty, I said, hey man, you better, like, I think I told him like a month ago, I said, hey bro, you better get the PS5 Pro or PS5, whatever you're gonna get, you better get it now before those tariffs kick in. And he was like, you right, and immediately went off to go buy one, because I mean, like, that's what's coming. Like, it's coming down the pipeline whether you like it or not. Yeah. And the PS5 Pro could easily be $850, I think.
Shoot, maybe $1,000, because wasn't the special edition $1,000? That
the one that was the custom PS1.
Yeah.
Well, that was because it was special. So
it was a limited edition type thing. I think they want to keep it at least to a point where people will still come and buy it. But I mean, like, I think tariffs still probably wind up with them going up to at least $850, because I think it's what, $699.
It is, I think $7. No, you're right. No, it's $699 right now.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. It's $699.
So $849 is what I'm guessing. And if it's anything less than that, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Right? That's insane.
I'm gonna be honest. I think honestly, if they did go away, they probably still keep them the same. Because I mean, it's just like, well, we see where the trend is going, so we might as well keep it going. And as far as the next generation, we probably will be the prices that we have now. Let's just say they did go down to what they originally were. The next generation is probably what they will be. Let's say the new Xbox with all the bells and whistles is probably going to be $729. Like, maybe the lower version is like 5 or 6. So I mean, that's where we're going, man. I just feel like the trend is, like, the one thing about it, gaming has always been like a pretty expensive hobby for the most part. Because, like, I mean, even you think back as a kid, like most games and most people with kids getting games, their parents bought them. It's like, I'm buying you one game at a time. I'm not buying you. So like when you become an adult and you start buying these games, it's like, man, spending that $60 on one game hit different. And you buy 2, like, oh man, that's.
I'm gonna push back on this as far as like the gaming always being expensive, because it's become more expensive, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this podcast in the first place. Because when we was kids, yeah, of course you didn't have the money, but like they also did all these things to lower the price over time. Like consoles got cheaper. Like when we was kids, the PS1 and the PS2, and even the SNES, they all eventually hit like $99. Yeah. Now you had to wait till damn near the end of the generation, but if you really wanted to be on that value type sit, you could go in there and even like, I think the PS1, I think I got it when it was like $199 or something like that. Mm-hmm. They was constantly lowering the price. Yeah. It was the $99 things happens at the end, but they lower the price all the way down throughout the generation. And then both Sony had the greatest hits package where you could get a new game or an older game, a classic game for $19.99. Nintendo had the Nintendo Selects program. That was like $19.99, I believe. So, I mean, they had ways. They used to have ways for you to game cheaply if that's what you wanted. And, I mean, they still technically kind of got that if you're willing to pay for, like, the online service. But then you don't own anything.
Yeah,
You get the Xbox. You get the Xbox Game Pass, and you get the Nintendo or the PlayStation, whatever the services are. You don't own shit. So, like, as soon as you stop paying the $20 a month or the $15 a month or whatever it is, now you ain't got no games.
Yeah,
and that part just sucks.
Yeah, that is a factor of it, is that some might say like, oh, well, just get Game Pass or whatever like service there is, and you can play as much as you want. Yes, but like you said, Sage, you won't own anything. Once you stop paying, all those games are gone. And so that's like doing the subscription service. That's not the solution to all this. I mean,
it's not the ultimate panacea. Like, it's not like we solved it.
Yeah.
Just go out there and get you don't own shit. So
yeah, ultimately your games will never be your own.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I was saying, like the fact that like really gaming, I guess in my opinion, is kind of people look at it as a luxury because like you don't need them. And like I said, back in the day, parents unless they just had it, and most probably didn't. They just like, I have other stuff to buy. Like I'm spending $200 on this one. I got to do this, and like especially back when we were kids, like 90s. That's a huge chunk of money. Like you got to account for because I saw some list of like it accounted for like inflation, how prices would change, and they were showing like what systems back then would cost now, and then some of them back then still cost it. Like freaking Neo Geo, the game's like $100.
Yeah.
Well,
Neo Geo was known for like being expensive.
Well, that's why I didn't get off the ground too.
That man, I'm like, but they were trying to give you like the arcade experience. I'm like, and that's the thing. Like but they started trying to give you that ultimate experience. I was like, even KI, that game was like almost $100. Like we're trying to give you the art. I'm like, man, that arcade experience is gonna cost it. But it was great to see when home console started beating arcade experience. I will say that much. But yeah, I think by the time we get to the next console generation, they'll probably be at the prices that they're talking about now. To be honest, I mean, PS5 Pro $700, like PS6 Pro $900, special edition $1,200.
We'll see. I got my own. Oh well, I guess I'll go ahead and say, I think next year is going to be crucial, as we saw in 2021, just in real life, like outside of gaming. The conditions that caused higher prices when they went away because of the pandemic, businesses, grocery stores, all that, they still kept their prices high. They was like, hey man, we've seen that you're willing to pay this, and so we just gonna keep charging you exactly what we was charging you before. Like there really is a hard delineation between what 2019 prices were and what 2022 prices were. Like once you got out of the pandemic, like I remember, everybody loved to talk about eggs. I remember coming to Nashville and getting an 18 count carton of eggs for like $1.60. That's it. And now you couldn't get, if you could get 6 eggs for that, I'd be shocked. They want to charge you $5 for that shit. They have no intention of, they'll go down some because they got to, but like they won't, they probably won't ever get back to that 160 again. And that's the same thing with video games. Like, man, game development is costly, but nobody wants to spend, less money on their games, like developing games. Like I've even heard some gamers mention, and this is where it gets crazy. We can't spend, they can't spend any less money on games. Costs will just have to go up. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Just because you don't want to spend less to develop your game doesn't mean gamers want to spend more for your game. Like, I don't know what's going through some folks' heads, and they're like, oh, well, some people have to lose their jobs. I'm like, no, they don't have to lose their jobs. Y'all want infinite profits. That's why they losing their jobs. Like, y'all just don't give a damn, and you just want to see the money that you want to see because you want to buy your 6th yacht. And I mean, like, that's not, like I said, that's your problem, not our problem. What's up, Devin?
So you just mentioning that makes, and this is like the bigger scale. But my job, and I mean most jobs, and I guess I didn't realize this, but like a lot of times you call out at a job or they don't have anybody, I'm learning that a lot of management is like, okay, because that's more money in our pocket. And it's like, but people are suffering, like you're down manpower, this, that, and the third, or even if they say, oh, we're overstaffed, it's like, and you're clearly understaffed, it's like, well, yeah, people are going to suffer because it's going to take so much more work for the people that we do have, but I'm saving money, so my bonuses will be bigger. And that's just the same thing which you mentioned. I just thought about it. It's like, that's just crazy. Like, well, we don't have people here to do the other stuff and all these responsibilities, but that fourth of y'all gonna look real good beside all the other three.
That's what inspired me asking this question in the first place. It's like knowing that so many businesses during the pandemic, like they had to lay off people, or they couldn't afford to have people in there, or they couldn't legally have people in there because, like, okay, we could only have so many people in here, the capacity, and like avoiding people getting sick and all of that. And then when it came time to hire people again, it was like, wait a minute, we making more money than ever because we've got fewer workers than ever. And so why would we hire anybody back? Like, let's just work the handful of workers that we got harder than we was working them before. And then, we just keep raking in the money. And that's the same thing that I worry about with video games. Like, if I think if these games, like if the next year or however long these tariffs stick around, I don't think they'll be permanent. Dude's kind of a paper tiger. So I just don't think he got it in him to keep these things be permanent. But if the games continue to sell at roughly the same, because I can assure you, some accountant somewhere that is running the numbers. Oh, well, we sold, X and X percent fewer consoles and games, but because of the raised price, we made this much more money, even though we sold fewer. And they'll be like, that's fine. And we'll just leave the price where it is. And so, like, I can see that. And then, like, I don't know if the prices will stay the same come next generation, but I definitely think they'll be more willing to raise prices, even if they're not, like, I don't know that, like, the Xbox, I don't know what the fuck they're going to call the next Xbox, but
Xbox 2.
This is an Xbox.
Yeah,
that'll be the next Xbox.
I don't know what the next box, whatever they call the next box, it may not be no $700, but it may be $600. They've been afraid to do the $600 console since Sony did it back in 2006, and I think they'll finally be ready to be like, hey, it's $600, take it or leave it. What you gonna do? And I think a lot of people will take it because it'll still be cheaper than your average PC. Because like even like a decent PC, like a decent gaming PC, is gonna run you about $1,100. Now, granted, $1,100 is really close to $600 if you just really just like, hey man, I just want the best looking graphics. Because like if you go get a gaming PC with a 5060 in it, it is going to outperform pretty much everything other than a PS5 Pro. So, I mean, it just depends on what you're looking at. But yeah, I do think that we'll get a drop back down. I don't know if we'll get back to the old price. I don't know, like if Sony goes up to like, what is the PS5 right now?
$499.
$499.
At least.
I think.
No, well, yeah, the discless one is $399.
Yeah, $399. Right.
Yeah, so yeah, it is $499. Yeah.
And I think that's crazy. We 5 years into this generation. Like like I said before, I remember when consoles used to gradually drop in price. The PS3 eventually went from $599 to $299, and that's when I got mine. So I mean, like, and then like even the PS4 dropped from like $399 to $299, and then eventually $249. A lot of times you could go get a sale, get it for $249. If you was really lucky, you could maybe sneaky get it for $199. That was really rare. But nonetheless, like you was getting it for like much cheaper than what it was going for. And now it's like, hey man, this console is 5 years old and we still charging exactly the same we was charging for it at launch. Like, boy, they found like a nice little racket. Terrence, what do you think, man?
I think this is economics 101. Once prices go up, they don't come back down. like the both of you have pretty much said. Once they do it, I don't see the prices going away, because once they know that they can get away with it and still make a profit, why lower it? At that point, the expectation has already been set, and lowering it, like, these companies are not going to do things like lower prices out of goodwill. At the end of the day, they want to make money, and if they know they can charge more and people are willing to pay for it, then they're going to do it. And to be honest, like, I know there's a lot of focus on the tariffs, but this whole conversation about the prices of games increasing has been around for quite some time. I know there's been rumors for a long time that GTA 6 was going to cost $80, $90, $100. I know that there's been some interviews in the past where certain execs from different publishers have talked about how they think games should cost more. I remember someone from Capcom said that, games should be 80. So yeah, tariffs, they accelerated the problem, or they've brought it to the present, but this isn't something new. This has been something that a lot of publishers have been wanting to do for quite some time, but nobody was willing to pull the trigger just because of the backlash, and the tariffs kind of gave them an excuse to do so. It's like, even now, they don't have to do it, but they're going to do it anyway and say, oh, tariffs are the reason why. Like, let's be honest. The Xbox One, it's not Xbox One, Series X and S, and the PlayStation 5, those came out in 2020, right?
Yeah.
We are getting ready to be 5 years into this generation, and you're raising prices now. Like, these systems don't do anything different than what they did 5 years ago. So why is it all of a sudden worth $100 more? Like, make it make sense to me. That well, I know that, what are you gonna say?
The tariffs is out of this world, so that's part of it. I know, like, I know Ty, like, when I was talking to Ty about it, he was like, I thought the Xbox was made in America. I'm like, I mean, some parts you don't make in America.
No, that's like the auto industry. The auto industry is like facing a lot of the same problems, because a lot of that stuff, while they say made in America, a lot of those parts come from different parts of the world. And you can't just centralize all of that to one particular spot. It's just not possible. That's not, the infrastructure for that hasn't existed in a very long time.
And it's not efficient.
Yeah, it's not efficient. Yeah. It just isn't. And yeah, so prices are not going to come down, and come next generation, yeah, it's probably going to be solidified that games will be $80 base, just no exceptions, unless you're an indie game or a game that doesn't cost as much to make. Then it'll be under 80. But your AAA games, yeah, they probably are going to cost 80 come next generation. So yeah, I don't see the prices going down, because once it's proven that people are willing to pay for it, why lower them?
Yeah, I just thought of one last thing. So the controllers, this is actually what made me just realize that this stuff probably won't go down. A PS4 controller is still $70. PS4, right? Even like because there's like, how they do the different DS4, the later ones, they have like 2 or 3 versions of PS4 controllers. The old one is like maybe 50 still. It should be probably 30, honestly. But a newer one is like almost $70. PS5 controllers like $80. So that right there alone lets me know, like, I just thought about it. It's just gonna go up, because the thing you need, you need both the game and the controller. So it's like you really can't have one without the other. But it's like, and they're made worse than ever. PS5 controllers suck, and at $80. Nintendo charging $90, almost $100 for a wireless GameCube controller with the C button for $90. They're a $50 microphone camera it's got 480p resolution, $50. Like, man, I've probably spent like at least $200, maybe $300 on PS4 controllers.
Wow.
Because like I play fighting games a lot, so I kind of wear them down. But I mean, most of my controllers over the years, I hadn't bought that many. Like PS3s were pretty solid. PS1 and PS2, them just like ancient relics. Them joints will last you to the end of time.
Of course, you mean the later PS3 controllers, because we all know those early PS3 controllers.
Well, yeah, you are right.
Those things were made out of paper.
They were kind of light. They were very light. I will give you that. But the last I want to actually, this is really what I want to say. I just thought about it. Could Xbox be sneakily trying to make back some profit off what they're losing from Game Pass? Because we know they had a conversation about, hey, we got a lot of people in here. I don't know. I think it could, because I mean, people play games on Game Pass, that's cool, but that's a sale that you're not getting. I don't know. That's just
nobody Nobody there is stupid enough to make that decision. Because, like, when you think about a lot of the decisions that Xbox has made, they've made a lot of consumer-friendly choices. And they don't make those because they're your friends. They make those because they know that they're way behind Sony and even behind Nintendo at this point. And when you're that far behind, the only thing left to do is pretend like you're the consumer's friend. That you see, I'm doing all the nice stuff for you. And then like to trip up at the end and be like, oh, well, let's raise the price of everything. Like, all right, man, what the fuck going on? Like, you'd have to, I don't know who'd be dumb enough to make that choice. I think the choice they made to try and like keep some of the same, to make more money is like the everything is an Xbox shit, which I know a lot of gamers hate, but it's like, at least that's not costing you any money. And it's trying to reach the widest audience possible. Like, oh, your smart TV is an Xbox. Your phone can be an Xbox. Everything can be an Xbox. Like, okay, well, that does. I mean, like, if you already own an Xbox Series, that don't cost you a dime, but it does reach more people potentially. But like to raise the prices, I don't know. Like, it seems like you be hoeing yourself for no reason, especially because, like, I mean, I would, if I was gonna do that, I would at least wait until Sony raised their prices, because a lot of this is coming from tariffs anyway. Like. At least for them, for Sony and Nintendo, for Sony and Microsoft, the price increase is coming from the tariffs. Nintendo was just like, hey, it's the price of the brick went up. With no tariff logic to it, they was just like, it costs what it costs. You want the new Mario Kart, don't you? You've been complaining about the Mario Kart 8 for about a decade now, ain't you? All right, well, come off this $80. Like, okay, and people gonna pay it because they some suckers. Which brings me to for consoles and games, what is the price at which you tap out on video games? And do you give up entirely on video games, or do you just go retro, Devin?
For games, man, I'm gonna be honest. This it feel a little weird for like $70 for a game. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, you kind of can bite the bullet, but 7 is like, all right, this, and it got to be something that I've been waiting on, something that's like pretty solid, is reviewed well. I'm not gonna lie, that 80 is. I'm gonna be honest, man, and I might not be buying a whole lot. It's got to be something like, all right, that's one I've been waiting on. This has been projected to be a blockbuster hit.
Hey, well, what about what the game analysts have been saying GTA should cost? What about that big hundo?
Well, I could care less about GTA. GTA can go fly off a cliff, all I care. I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So I've never got into the GTA hype.
But I think that was his way, like the analyst, because it was a couple of analysts that have been saying it for years now, that GTA 6 would probably cost $100. I think that was their way of saying Rockstar will open the door for the $100 game conversation. Yeah. And so I'm asking, like, what do you think what games is any game worth the big hundo?
No.
Okay.
I don't GTA 6, ABC 6, GTA 7, that ain't worth $100. Man, you got to, I get it. They had so much stuff in 5, like you racing all this. So they're gonna have to like, you're going to have to release a game that like literally changes the landscape of game. Like, it does something so different. It is so revolutionary. It's like, you can't deny, hey, this game is it's operating on another level. For that to even be for me in the conversation. Like, we've had games before in the past. Oh, this game is going to change. It's going to change the shape and landscape of gaming. What was the game that was when did they titled Starfield a quadruple A game? All the A's.
That was what's that doggone game that was based off of Dead Space, from the Dead Space
game?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Callisto Protocol?
Protocol. That was the one they were like,
There was another one I thought that there was that they was like, oh, this is quadruple A, and it came out was like barely 2 A's. But yeah, it's like quadruple A. Like, it's gotta have. I'm talking about
Callisto Protocol was the one where somebody found like a PowerPoint presentation, and one of the ways it was marketed was quad A all day, baby. And I was like, all right, man.
Man, what a world we live in. But it's like, that's a good point. That's a point I want to touch on. It's got to be revolutionary in visuals. It can't, like, we've had some great looking games. Callisto Protocol was a great looking game, but it sucked. It's got to be something that pushes the envelope on every aspect. User friendly, accessibility, all these things, visuals, gameplay, the immersiveness, options, content, all this stuff. For me to say, hey, it's worth $90 to $100. I just don't. Most people might think it any differently, but I don't think it's gonna be worth $100. Like, it's probably gonna be a really good game. It should just be $70, $60 or $70. That's just me. But 80 for me is gonna be kind of limit. I'm gonna be real selective with games. And you know what? There's these things out there called indie games. A lot of those are really good, y'all, and they don't cost $80. And I hope that they don't get to the point they can't, because that would just be crazy. But there's a lot of good games that cost less than that. I play those. So I would be good if I didn't play those $80 games. I'll be fine. Console wise, man, $700. That sounds like a big one to bite too, man. Like $700 for a console. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna need a lot of. You gonna have to give me a lot of options. Like, if I got a PlayStation, bring the browser back. You gonna have to give me a lot of stuff, man. Like, my computer that I built cost like $1,200, right? So you telling me it's over half of what I built my computer, which gives me so many more options. I can play things, I can do all kind of stuff, mods and everything. I don't know, man. 700 is kind of like, 800. I'm like, all right, bro. I'm glad I got a computer now. I'm glad I got a PC, because I can technically play everything, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. Allegedly, you can play whatever you want. So,
boy.
Terrence, what about you, man? What's the price where you tap out, or do you just go retro, or do you just give up on games?
I don't see myself ever tapping out, because I just love the medium of gaming so much. But at the same time, there'll be less purchases. I'll put it that way. I mean, even now, for me, I don't buy games as much as I used to, unless it's something that I'm hearing a lot about, like Expedition 33. I just bought that because I want to play that. And also I want to support those devs. When you put out it's an indie studio, they put out a game of the year worthy product, and it's less than $70. Yeah, I'm willing to support that. But yeah, games costing $80. I'm not saying I will never buy a game if it's $80, but one, I'm going to have to see if it reviews well. Two, if it's a franchise that I really care a lot about, like let's say the next Final Fantasy comes out, it's $80. It reviews very well. It's like up in the 90s. It's considered one of the best Final Fantasies of the series, of the franchise. At that point, you know what? I'd be like, yeah, that's the game I want to spend $80 on. But it might be the only $80 game that I buy that year. So that's a factor as well, is that it's just, if games are going to cost more, that's just going to reduce the amount of games that I buy. Then I'm not just going to spend as much money on AAA games. Like Devin said, there's a lot of indie games out there that they're really good. So I'll buy those as well. As far as consoles, look, once we reach 700, I think I'll just go PC. Because the thing is, there's too many cost factors when it comes to console gaming, because one of the biggest issues with consoles is that you have to buy the online service to play games online. You don't have to do that with PC. So not only are you paying, if you buy an Xbox, not only are you paying that $600, you're going to have to pay for Xbox Live or whatever it's called now in addition to that. And the same thing with PS5. Heck, I know my subscription, my yearly subscription is coming up now, and that's going to have to be $80. That used to be 50. Then it was 60. Then it was 70, and now it's 80. It's just like, where does it stop? So I think for me, if the next generation of consoles, if they get up there to like $700, unless I just have it like that, I think I'm going to go PC, which, to be honest, I've been thinking about that lately, about like, yeah, next time is probably just best to go straight up PC, especially with the way this generation is going, how a lot of exclusives are starting to become they're starting to be put on PC as well. Maybe not day and date, but eventually they do come to PC. And if that's the case, you might as well just wait. Now, there is a whole other argument to be made that it might not be as well optimized, because that's a whole other can of worms when it comes to PC, is that these games are made for consoles, and as of right now, it feels like they don't give as much of a shit about the PC ports as they should. they're very much, we'll put it out and then fix it in post kind of thing. So, we'll see how that goes. But ultimately, I don't see myself tapping out on games or going retro. I mean, I'll still play like older games, of course, and I'll play current games, but it just means that the amount of games that I buy is going to go down. And when it comes to consoles, if the prices go up, I'm probably just going to go PC. So that's how I view it.
It's worth saying that PC, it remains to be seen what is going to happen to the PC market because of the tariffs. Right now, you could get, and let me double check so I'm not talking out of my ass.
That actually is a good point, that if the GPUs and all the other components, if that stuff starts going up, because that stuff is used for other things, unfortunate other things like AI and crypto and whatnot.
Well, actually, the crypto thing with the GPUs, that's not as, they got another way of doing it now. That's why GPU prices have kind of gone down, especially like, because you don't need the highest end GPU. You do need a good GPU, but you don't need the highest end GPU. Like, it's enough to get like the 4060 or the 5060 or whatever, and not get like the 5080, 5090. Like, you don't need that necessarily. Some people will tell you that you do. You don't really. Yeah, so like right now you could get actually a really solid PC from Best Buy for, $1,300. And it's like, all right, well, if you ask me, do I want to spend $700 on a console or $1,300 on a PC? It's like, well, I guess I'll go spend $1,300 because the PC can do so much more. It's not just going to be
video
limited.
editing and other stuff outside just gaming.
Right. It's not just limited to just being like, oh, all it can do is play video games. It can do so much more. And I mean, like, one thing I'll say, one thing I want to get out of the way here. I'll say it like this. I'll never leave video games, but day one games will become more rare. Just like Terrence said, like it will become a point where the stars have to align perfectly for me to get a $80 video game. $100 video game, I'm probably just not going to get. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just don't. The big hundo is just not for me. That's just too fucking much for a video game. When I was a kid, they used to cost $50. When you were a kid, if the PS2 era, they cost $49.99. And the idea of paying the price of two games for one game it just don't sit well with me. I know the PS2 was a long time ago. I know a lot of people could call us just like, hey, yeah, that whatever, grandpa, let's get you to the nursing home. I know you can say those, make those jokes or whatever, but I'm just not giving you no $100, especially not. And I got such a large backlog of games to get through. And those games, the older they get, the more on sale they become. And I'm not even a guy that plays a lot of like super old games. Like, I'm not going to, like, even though I just brought up PS2 games, these two guys I'm not going back and playing no PS2 game. Not unless they get a remake. I'm just not finna do it. So, I mean, like, and I'm not going back and playing PS3 games except I guess maybe Sleeping Dogs, because I love that game so much, but that's a one of one. Everything else, like, I'm not going back for that. PS4 and PS5 is where I stop. And so, like, but it's still so many games, especially in the last decade, that they have made that I still need to catch up on. So as you start to raise prices, I'm just like, oh, I guess I just won't get these games until they go down and hit something more reasonable. And maybe, like I said before, they have accountants to figure out, like, okay, well, have we sold enough to make up for the fans that we lost? Maybe they got that for the games right now. Like, maybe they've already figured that out. And there are some people that will always buy day one because they just gotta have it, and they're just not gonna miss out on feet. They're just not gonna be able to pass on the FOMO. They're like, hey, I gotta have it, and I set the money aside, and it just is what it is. And my favorite thing to say is that things do not cost what they cost. They cost what you're willing to pay. But for some people, it just costs what it costs, and they'll just pay whatever, no matter what you tell them it costs. They're like, hey man, I'll pay it. So if you one of them, I mean, like, maybe there are enough of those guys to keep raising the price of games infinitely. I don't know. I will say this. One argument that I don't want to hear as games continue to go up, a lot of people love saying, oh, the hours it take you to beat the game don't equal enjoyment. To a point, that's false. Like, I know a lot of people want shorter games. They want the game that's 15 hours, 20 hours, 25 hours max. These tend to be like the most hard of the hardcore gamers that just want to beat a game and get to the next game. But as games go up in price, you can't design for those fans anymore. you're not gonna sell me a game that I can beat in 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, you just not. I'm sorry. Like I don't care. Like all that the days of Uncharted where you could beat that bitch in a weekend. I can't. I'm sorry. Like not for $80, and certainly not for no 90 and 100. You out of your mind. Like that's an obscene amount of money to charge. So yes, these games are going to wind up being longer. And no, replayability. I know Devin brought up replayability. That works for multiplayer games. For single player games, like, hey man, your game's just gonna have to be longer. That's just the end of it. Like you gonna have to. I don't know what you're gonna have to do. Put some side quests in that bitch. Make it open, semi-open world. Make the levels more open and shit, so you could explore them. Whatever it is, but it can't just be like a 7-hour experience, and then you think you're gonna. But to be fair, games like Split Fiction, yeah, I don't think that's a super duper long game. And I mean, they charge 50. They were smart enough to know, like, no, we can't get away with charging full price for it, again, $70. And hopefully you see that from a lot of developers going forward. A lot of developers that have a decently budgeted game, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna price it at a decent price too to go along with that. But I mean, like, I obviously I'm just not gonna give up on video games because, quite frankly, there's so many video games that I have to get through that by the time I beat them all, the new games that I want that are too much will probably also be on sale, and I could just get those, and the cycle will just continue. Yeah. So no, I'm never gonna quit video. Exactly, yep. Exactly. So I'm never gonna quit video games, but day one games will become more and more rare until it gets to the point where maybe I do just buy, like Terrence said, one game a year, because otherwise, like, I'm just throwing money. I just don't like the idea of throwing money away like that. So all right, that's gonna wrap this week up. Let us know what your limit in video games is. How much money are you willing to spend before you're like, hey man, I can't spend no more than this? Let us know in the comments below. If you're new to this episode, you liked it, I need you to do us a few things. I need you to hit that like button. I need you to subscribe. I need you to tell your friends about us. And I need you to do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.